all around the globe, climate change is affecting developing and developed countries. In this video, we will discover some of the impacts in order to better understand them. We will focus primarily on the effects of climate change on agriculture and oceans. To begin, it's important to know that the planet faces rising temperatures that could increase by 2 to 7 degrees around the globe by the end of the year 2100. Longer episodes of intense heat waves will cause droughts, which have negative consequences on agriculture and the food system. Due to a lack of humidity in the soil, fires will be more frequent, like those of Fort McMurray in 2016, Australia in 2019 and 2020, or those of British Columbia in 2021. Of course, we need agriculture to sustain and feed us. We know that agriculture emits high quantities of carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrous oxide because of plowing techniques, animal husbandry, and the use of certain types of fertilizer. Nonetheless, agriculture is also a victim of climate change in many ways. Let's try to understand this situation in more detail with the help of some farmers to understand how climate change impacts agriculture. What kind of agriculture do you practice?
We are here in St. Matthew La Prairie. Our farm name is 1313 Arc-en-Ciel Farm. It's a vegetable pickup farm for the customers, and we are doing from last 10 years. Customers and kids comes to pick up vegetables, and they see how to grow the vegetables. Usually they buy from the stores. The kids, they don't know where the tomatoes, where the peppers and eggplants came. So here they get the ideas, they see how vegetables are growing.
Have you witnessed a difference in the past few years regarding your harvests or productions? And can you give us some examples?
Yes, because when we start this vegetable growing farm, we have the specific dates when we plant and when we harvest, like these kind of dates. But nowadays, like every year, because of the climate change, the season is not the same dates on the, because sometimes it's too hot, it's too dry seasons, and it's not good for the vegetables because they need more water. It's like kind of sometimes too much rain. That's not good for the vegetables also. Vegetables need a stable temperature. So that's why it has a lot of changes because of the climate.
In terms of climate change, some bad consequences as well as some good ones will affect agriculture. Let's see some examples of negative consequences. Climate change will probably increase the number of invasive alien species in Canada, as well as a rise of their rate of survival, which will make it harder to get rid of them. Alien species include mushrooms, bacteria, viruses, plants, and animals found in areas where they're not native. Invasive alien species are harmful species that can invade a new ecosystem, colonize, and reproduce prolifically. Thus, by taking over new ecosystems, they can modify the native biodiversity and dynamics that were in place before their arrival. For example, in Canada, we notice some plants do not naturally grow in our climate. However, once established, they cause inconveniences and can be dangerous to native plants and animals, which are the ones that do normally grow in Canada. Moreover, those invasive alien species can cause problems for farmers, who must stop the propagation and growth of those kinds of plants to protect their crops. In the last couple of years, farmers started to notice water scarcity caused by climate change because of more frequent heat waves, less important rainfall, and lowering water levels. They all cause big problems for farmers who must irrigate their land or hydrate their animals. As we mentioned earlier, some impacts of climate change can be positive. For example, in many countries, the average temperature, or the most common one throughout the year, must be a maximum of 13 degrees to allow crops to grow. Therefore, in cold countries, global warming is favorable for agriculture by creating a longer growing season. On the other hand, tropical countries already have very hot temperatures, and if temperatures continue to rise, farmers there could have to deal with more drought. Another ambiguous impact of climate change is the increase of CO2 levels. It could lead to a stimulation of photosynthesis, which is the process by which plants transform CO2 and sun rays into oxygen that we can breathe. But the higher levels of CO2 in the atmosphere could lead to a decrease of the crop's quality. For example, there could be fewer nutrients than before in fruits and vegetables grown by farmers. Now, let's talk about another major impact of climate change, the rising temperature of oceans. Water, just like the Earth, absorbs heat, which causes it to expand. The hotter the water becomes, the more space it needs. And in short, when water heats up, sea levels go up as well. Melting ice also contributes to rising sea levels. Populations living near the coast, like the Netherlands, where a quarter of the country is already below sea level as is, will be the first affected by sea level rise. The same goes for New Orleans or islands such as the Vanuatu archipelago, which are also at risk. Sea level rises by about 1 centimeter per year, and at the same time, islands are sinking, which means that they will eventually end up completely underwater. At this rate, another archipelago, the Kiribati Islands, counting 33 islands in the Pacific Ocean, will also be submerged. Because of these consequences, many people will have to abandon their villages, their homes, and will become what we call climate refugees. The melting permafrost is yet another impact of climate change. Permafrost is what we call soil, rock, or sediment that are frozen year-round and have been for thousands of years. Permafrost is usually located in the northern hemisphere, in Arctic regions. It covers ground that is full of organic matter. When permafrost thaws, so does that organic matter, and by doing so releases carbon dioxide and methane, which are two of the main greenhouse gases. Finally, the intensification of rainfalls and natural disasters like floods and hurricanes are other examples of consequences due to climate change. All those impacts linked to climate change are due to human activities. Since we know the root of the problem, we're able to reduce our own footprint by adapting our way of living. In fact, there are some easy changes that we can make to our daily life to make a difference, such as riding your bike instead of taking the car, eating less meat, buying local products, and much more. So, did you learn anything new about the impacts of climate change? If so, click the like button at the bottom of this video. You can also try our quiz, Climate Change and Me, on our website. Challenge yourself on what you've learned today, and try a surprising experiment at home. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in another episode of Climate Change and Me.